is what happens when you go on the road and you got to record YouTube videos. You're just in Colorado, just staring at a camera, looking like, God, this is back in college in my TV days, where you're just looking at the camera, talking into the teleprompter, except we don't have a teleprompter. The script is on my phone. Also, people keep telling me I need to get a new phone case. I don't know what that's about. I like the color. It's fine. We got it in a pinch. Anyway, let's talk Ren Faire. I just saw Ren Faire. Oh, this boy. The most important thing, though, even though we're on the road, is we've got this Tommy here with us. This guy, he made the drive all across the country to come with us so he can be an adventure cat. And let me tell you, he did okay. He kind of threw up the first hour that we were there. But then, you know what? He calmed down. He got nice and chill. Third day, aside from some early morning screams, he was doing fine. He's just a full-on adventure cat now. He's just chilling. He is really enjoying our new place here in Colorado, where we're living for 2 months. And he is just having the darndest old time. He has discovered stairs and how much he can use stairs to attack us while he is at eye level. He is a menace at eye level for the first time in his life. And let me tell you, it is very cute. It is a little disconcerting getting swiped at by a cat while you're just like walking by the stairs. So anyway, this boy is still here. He's a good boy. My boy, go get some snugs. We'll talk to you more in a minute. So, now that that's out of the way, let's talk Ren Faire. Ren Faire, if you have not heard, is the new series from HBO. It is a docu-fantasia, 3 episodes, documenting the various efforts to buy the Texas Renaissance Festival from its owner and founder, George Coulomb. And there was a lot of trepidation around this series, especially among those of us in the Renaissance Fair community, who were all very worried that this was going to be the Ren Faire version of Tiger King, where you find the weirdest people you can, make them even weirder on camera, and then make the entire community look bad. I'm pleased to say that is generally not the case in this situation. However, I do still have some mixed feelings about the show, and we're going to talk through some of those mixed feelings here in this episode. But before all that, we got to do some background. So, I have been performing at Renaissance Fairs and Festivals since I was 6 years old. Nowadays, as an adult, that is my job. I travel around the country and I work fairs and festivals around the U.S. However, I have never worked TRF, Texas Renaissance Festival. I have never met George Coulomb. I do have friends who either work or have worked TRF, and my father worked TRF back in the 80s. Now, let's talk about the show itself. The first thing to know is that this is a docu-fantasia. It's not quite a straight documentary. What does docu-fantasia mean? It means that things may have been heightened, things may have been added for stylistic effect, things may have been a bit dramatized, and that really comes through, at least for me, pretty quickly in episode 1, where I watch certain scenes and I say, there is no way that this dialogue happened without the hand of the directors, without the directors saying, hey, we need the 2 of you or the 3 of you to have this conversation so we can get it on camera. Even if it wasn't scripted, it was directed. And my big thing about that is suddenly I'm not sure what's real or what's not. The problem is that some of these scenes are so glaringly obvious that it becomes hard to take anything at face value in this. Let me put it this way. There's a scene in episode 2 where one of the main subjects of the film, and I say subject, not character, because these are real people, not characters, where one of the subjects of the film is persuaded to take action by the manifestation of his inner conscience played by a dragon in his office. You see where I'm going with this. The photography, the filters, the transitions, they're all great. And I want to shout out specifically one moment in episode 3 where they put in Jax's Victoria's Secret, because that was so good. But there are multiple times in this show where I can hear where they cut up someone's words. Basically, they took a 15-second sentence and they shortened that to about 10 seconds. Now, there are a whole bunch of reasons that you might choose to do that. Many of them benign. We used to do it in radio all the time. Sometimes someone has a 15-second long thought, but there are ums and there are uhs and there are extra words they don't need, so you cut out those extra words to make it fit into 10 seconds. You're not changing the context around what they said. Or you can take something that they said and then something else that they said and mash them together and make it into something that they never actually said or meant. Now, I want to give the producers the benefit of the doubt. I don't think that's actually what they're doing in this case, but it's something that I heard multiple times, and the fact that it was that choppy doesn't fill me with a lot of, shall we say, confidence. Which is a shame, because there is a lot in this show that is very real. TRF is a real place. It has been running for nearly 50 years at this point. The owner, George Coulomb, he owns the land, he owns the festival, he runs the show, he has a lot of power over that town, of which he is also mayor. And that power has allowed him to build up the Texas Renaissance Festival to the point where it is hands down the largest Renaissance festival in the US, probably the largest Renaissance festival in the world. However, George has a reputation among the Ren Faire community for being a bit eccentric. So let me say this again. I have never worked at TRF. I have never met George Coulomb. However, based on the stories that I have heard about him both as a man and as a boss to work for, nothing depicted in this show surprised me in the slightest. All right, but how does it depict the Renaissance Fair world, the Renaissance Fair culture? It gives you interesting nuggets, little kernels of truth here and there, but it's the kind of thing that only someone like me is gonna catch. So here's an example. There's one scene in episode 3 where George catches an employee not wearing a hat. And for most of us, that wouldn't be a big deal. But George's idea is that in the 14th century, 15th century, Renaissance period, people all wore hats. That was the fashion, and he's not totally wrong there. And let me tell you, as someone who has worked Renaissance festivals for so much of his life and generally does not like wearing a hat, I have had this conversation so many times. I have been chastised. I have been roasted. I have been lectured, not even by management, not even by my bosses, by the vendors I'm walking by on the street being like, you need to wear a hat. I'm like, I don't wear a hat. The boss knows I don't wear a hat. I don't know, he can come tell me to wear a hat. That spoke to me. You know, it's funny, I was worried that, making this video, I would never be able to work TRF, but I could never work TRF anyway because I refused to wear a hat. So, yeah, that's fine. So the show gives you these snapshots, these little glimpses at what it's like to work at a Renaissance fair, especially in the B-roll right at the start of the first episode. Things like you see someone pouring an energy drink into his, Renaissance-themed mug. That's the most accurate part of the show, by the way. But it also frustrates me because we see so little of this once the show gets going. We see so little of what actually goes into making a Renaissance fair work. There's so much that goes on at the ground level, whether it's a performer rehearsing during the week, vendors making stock, grounds crew cleaning up the site after a rainy weekend, whatever it may be. We don't see really any of that. We see a few of the management level meetings that are in the background, but they're really just side pieces to move along with the main story, and the main story is the power struggle, the drama, the succession of who's going to get the Texas Renaissance Festival. There is so much that goes into making a successful Ren Fair, and we don't get to see any of that. And I will say this, I do want to give props to the showrunners for not portraying the people who work at Renaissance fairs like dumb nerds who like to play dress up in the woods. And I say that because that's usually how we get depicted in the media. I found the portrayal of people who work at Ren Fairs here in this docu-fantasia, I found it to be pretty accurate, that people who work at the Ren Fair are diverse. They are intelligent. They know how to run a business because it is a business at the end of the day. I appreciated that depiction of the world that I live in because that is the world that I live in. That's part of why I love the Ren Fair. It's because it's an area where no matter who you are, people from all walks of life can come and be welcome and be part of this little community that exists for 8 weeks at a time before everyone packs up and moves on to the next site. So those are my general thoughts, but I also asked a few of my friends in the Ren Faire world to give me their thoughts. And most of these are people's thoughts after just watching one episode of it because that was all they had time to watch. So I'm gonna pull them up on my phone and I'm gonna read to you exactly what they had to say. First one, the Red Bull was the most accurate part of the show. Told you. The B-roll is good. The whole thing is so painfully self-conscious and an obvious commercial for TRF. This is no Tiger King, because neither George nor anyone else in this is stupid enough to allow that kind of access. Every word and number said is carefully scripted and vetted. They know the IRS is watching too. Here's another one. Not everyone wants to be George. And on that note, I got a text from the owner of the Louisiana Renaissance Festival, runs roughly at the same time as Texas, slightly later, and he says, off the cuff, LARF has respectfully distanced itself from TRF many times over the decades. They were very adult-themed, which is okay for them. We are far more family-focused. It's okay for Olive Garden to sell spaghetti and McDonald's to sell burgers. It's okay to like both or to choose a favorite. Each Renaissance Festival supports artisans, the arts, and history in their own way. They vary with as much flair, creativity, and flavor as restaurants and other locally owned businesses. Remember to support your friends, know when to help, and when to give them their space. And know who your friends are. So that's just a few of the thoughts that some of my colleagues had to share. I think we're all generally of a similar impression, which is that we're pleased it's not Tiger King. We wish it had shown more of what it's actually like to work at a Renaissance fair instead of centering around the drama that is the succession crisis at TRF. I personally, from a media perspective, someone who worked in media, someone who's been around media for much of their life, I understand why they made the decisions that they did, but as someone who works in the industry, I would have liked to see more of the industry. So, my general thoughts. If you watched the show and you enjoyed it, that's fine. Enjoy it. In the meantime, cheers everyone. Be well.
Toss a coin to your whipper, or maybe a 20, or maybe a 20. Whoa.